Hey everyone, and welcome to Eagle Eye with Reuben Frank. I'm Dave Zangaro. All right, Rube, it's time for stay or go. We have a few positions to get to today, and we'll start with defensive tackle. As we always do, we'll go alphabetically. So we'll start with Fletcher Cox. And if you were to ask us at the trade deadline last year, we might have had him going.
Yeah, but the way they restructured his contract kind of makes it almost impossible for him to go. He showed some encouraging signs late in the season. He had his talk with Gannon. Gannon tried to really adjust the way he used him. You got to hope that the gradual decline we've seen the last couple of years levels out a little bit, because it's a little alarming. First half of the year, he was just not very good. Second half of the year and the last month, he was better. So you just got to hope he can at least maintain that level. He's not that old. He's played a lot of football, a lot of snaps, a lot of games. He's going to stay. It's just, it's a precarious time because he's making a ton of money. Probably have to keep him 2 more years, most likely, cap-wise. Just got to hope he plays a little better, a little more consistently.
Yeah, I think the days of him playing at that Pro Bowl, All-Pro level are probably gone. But if you can get decent play out of him, look, he's going to be overpaid. That ship has sailed, and it's a mistake when they paid him. All the restructures with him over the years have really come back to bite them at this point. But he's going to be here, and you just hope they get the most out of him. The next one's Javon Hargrave. He'll certainly be back in 2022. It's time to start thinking about an extension for him. That's where I'm at with him, because he has a really high cap hit. He's one of their best players, and he's still young enough to think that he has, 2 or 3 more years of that level of play.
What is he, 28, 29?
28.
Still 28. Yeah, I would have no problem with that. Again, I'd like to see a little more consistency out of him. He had a really good year. He started seeing double teams second half of the year. I'd have no problem adding a couple years and some bonus money to that deal.
Yeah, and it would take away some of his cap hit this year. He has one of the highest cap hits on the team. And so he's a prime candidate for that. I was impressed by the way he played. And I think there is a learning curve when you start seeing that extra attention. It takes a while to figure out how to deal with it. And I think at times we started to see him have some breakthroughs there. And I'd imagine he's going to see a lot more of them next year. So he has to figure it out.
Yeah, we'll see what they do as far as bringing in inside, an inside guy. I think if they do what they should do and what I think they should do and what I hope they do in the draft, this D-line is going to be a lot better and a lot younger next year. And I think it's going to take some pressure off Hargrave and Fletcher. We'll see.
Yeah. Next one, Hassan Ridgeway, it was a minimum deal, but it was actually one of those veteran salary benefit deals, which means they pay him his salary, but it counts less against the cap. So it's the cheapest deal you can get for a veteran of his status in the league. He played all right. He had 2 sacks. He had early in the season, he looked really good. He played all year, which was a big thing for him. What do you do here?
Gone. I just think you need to get better there. He's okay. I think you need to get better than okay. So, I'm fine moving on from Hassan Ridgeway. I think you can find someone who's more productive.
Yeah. If they bring him back, it's not the end of the world because it'd be another cheap deal, and you can probably cut him in camp if it doesn't work out. But I have him going too. I don't think there's a real reason to bring him back. The next one is a draft pick, Marlon Tui Pelotu from USC. I was kind of disappointed in him, even dating back to training camp. This was a guy who at one point they thought would be a mid-round pick, and he played a lot of high-level football in college, and I just never saw it with him.
Yeah, we didn't see it in camp. He didn't really get much of an opportunity to play during the season. You want to keep him on the practice squad and hope you can develop him, maybe get something out of him. I'm fine with that, but they need, that the lower end of that depth chart needs a little more juice than Tui Pelotu gave him. So I'm fine moving on.
Yeah. Next one is Milton Williams, 3rd round pick. I was impressed by Milton, not just that he played pretty well, but he got better as the year went on. And the numbers didn't always indicate that, at least the sack numbers, but he was more active late in the year as they got into December, and that was really encouraging.
Yeah, he had something like 5 tackles for loss in the last 4 games. I thought he was really active. He actually, I was thinking about this. I think I wrote it. He might have been their most consistent defensive lineman. I mean, he started out as a rookie 3rd round pick, playing at a fairly good level, and just kept playing well. Like he said how hard it was, but he never hit the rookie wall. They did a good job with his snaps. He didn't really play too much, played a lot. But I was impressed with him as well. And I can see him, like if we do a pod next fall or next summer where we're like, who's going to make the big jump from year 1 to 2? I think I can see him doing that. I can see him really having a big year next year, really kind of taking that next step.
I could too. I like Milton Williams quite a bit, and he's so versatile, and that matters. It does. He having him play inside, outside, like from one snap to the next, he could be inside and outside, and that can help you with matchups. The last one is Marvin Wilson, who was a late arrival. He was an undrafted free agent in Cleveland. Came here on the practice squad. Spent all year on the practice squad. Rube, this is my big surprise of stay or go. I had them keeping Marvin Wilson. I think there's something there.
Yeah, I have him going, so you can be out on the island with that one.
I'm happy to be on the island here. This is a guy who, if he came out a year earlier, he probably would have been at worst a 2nd round pick. And then he went back to Florida State. His value tanked, obviously. He ends up, but the Browns paid him a ton of money, $162,000 guaranteed, which is like unheard of for an undrafted rookie. And then they lose him, which had to hurt them when he came to Philly. And I'm going out on a limb here because I've never seen him play really in the NFL. I've seen him play in college.
Yeah.
But he wasn't in camp. But I think if he is in shape, he can be a part of the rotation. He's a good run stuffer. He's never going to be like super disruptive, get after the quarterback, but he's my dark horse to make this team. And I'll say, I'll go out on an island here and you can make fun of me if it doesn't happen.
I will.
Okay.
I've already jotted it down. Make fun of Dave on Final Cut Day.
All right. Interior offensive line. We start off with Jack Anderson, who was what?
I was just thinking what I wrote about Jack Anderson I don't know if you read the blurb yet.
I have it in front of me, which I think is unfair. I actually have Jack Anderson staying.
I figured you did.
Yeah. Here's my thing with Jack Anderson. They have some options, but this year he was a backup. He went on IR. They brought him back from IR. They didn't have to do that. They clearly like him. He was a draft pick, not by the Eagles. It might come down to like him or Coyote Aguasika or one of those other guys, and I had them keeping Anderson.
Yeah, I just can't resist the urge to get a cheap laugh. So I think I wrote something like, every time I hear his name, it reminds me of the legendary Pulitzer Prize winning political columnist Jack Anderson, and I said they each have the same chance of making the team next year. So yeah, I think you do better than Jack Anderson. That's all.
Okay, maybe I don't. But Stoutland also has some pull in this organization.
They're going to draft like some guy in the 6th round who's going to end up being an All-Pro for Stout. So, we'll see. Maybe you're right.
The next one is Coyote Aguasika, and I was going to keep one of these 2 guys. I ended up keeping Anderson, but they seem to like Coyote too, who played at the university at Buffalo. Did you know that?
I did.
It's one of those stupid little things that I'll never forget because the Buffalo people really got on me a couple years ago. University at Buffalo. They like him. He's a guard tackle. He can play both. He had a pretty good camp, I thought.
Yeah.
Last year.
I have him going, but I think he's one of those guys who could play his way onto the roster if he has a really good camp. I think they'll try to keep him on the practice squad, and I think you'll see him eventually at some point playing. But since stay or go is based on opening, the final roster, I have him going. But I also think there's something there. He played well in the preseason games too. I thought I was impressed with him. So,
they tried to hide him. I mean, they didn't play him much in the preseason.
No, they didn't. They didn't. I remember that first preseason game; he played really well, and then we didn't see much of him. But I have him going. Wouldn't be shocked if he stays, but I think at worst, if they can keep him on the practice squad, if they can get him through waivers, he'll be here.
Yeah, he kind of reminds you like Sua. When they,
Yeah.
I mean, Sua was a little more raw, but it took him a couple years on the practice squad. He built his way up, and then he was on the roster. Next one is Landon Dickerson. He's staying, obviously. You and I are in agreement about him. He better be the left guard. You don't move him.
Right. I know some people think, if and we're speaking if Kelsey does retire, you move him to center and play Sayamalu at left guard. You don't move a guy that played at this level. You don't mess with it. And I think they know that, and I don't think they would move him. I also don't think he's a center. I mean, he's 335. Centers aren't 335.
6'6".
Yeah, centers are.
That's the harder part.
Like, I'm sure he can get you. I know he played some in college, but I'm sure he can get you through a game, and he wouldn't embarrass himself. But I think the heaviest center in the league this year was like 315. I mean, you don't play center at 335. I don't want to start asking the guy to change his build. He's an all-pro. To me, he's a potential all-pro left guard. You don't move him. You don't mess with it. Sayamalu can play center. He came in as a guard center. Hopefully Kelsey's back, and you don't have to worry about that. But if not, you're not moving Dickerson.
The next one is Nate Herbig, restricted free agent. So I guess it's not guaranteed that he's back, but both of us are in agreement here that he's going to be back next year. I'd tender him.
I would too. I think he's valuable. I think he's, it's funny. I mean, he's played the second most games of all the interior linemen, even though he's never projects as a starter when the season starts. He always ends up playing, and he holds his own. So he's going to get better. I mean, again, he's still a young guy. Came in undrafted, and I don't think he'll ever be a star, but he's going to get better.
Yeah. Jason Kelsey, pretty big one.
I have him staying really based on his interview on I guess it was on WIP the other day. I mean, he really sounded like he was leaning that way. That's all I have to go on. So we'll see what happens. I think we'll know fairly soon. But it sounds like he'll be here.
Yeah, they'll have to figure out the contract. It was basically a 1-year deal that they gave him last year. But you pay him. You just pay him whatever he wants, honestly, and you get him back for another year. You don't squabble over that. So,
I mean, he might ask for minimum plus like 30 cases of beer and just be happy with it, and a couple gift cards to Jersey Mike's.
I mean, he's going to want to get paid. I mean, they gave him a pay bump last year, and look, if you have to give him another pay bump, incentivize him. Sure.
Yeah, he'll. Yeah, I don't think that's going to be a problem. They know his value, and they'll. And he's also not going to try to hold them up and ask for anything unreasonable. But he's the best center in the game, and he should be paid like it.
Yeah. Next is Sua Opeta. We mentioned him earlier. I have him staying. I like Sua, and maybe I'm crazy. Maybe they can't keep all these guys. But
we have 8 guards on the roster next year.
That's fair. I like him. He's kind of like, in a lot of ways, he's like the anti-Herbie because he's super athletic, real raw, whereas Herbie's just solid. You know where you're getting. But a couple years ago, remember they made the switch from Herbie to Sua because they just wanted that next level athleticism. And Opeta has that. It was just like, could he translate his game? Could he learn enough to become a viable option? He's done that at least to be a backup.
Yeah, I would agree. I think, Herbie and Sua are like the prototype Jeff Stoutland guys who came here. Nobody had heard of them. They weren't, I don't even know if they were at the combine. They were like, they might not even have had pro days. I don't even know. But, you get like a redshirt year under Stoutland and you just learn. And they were both undrafted and they're both viable players now. And I kept both of them. I like Sua too. I actually think, if I had to rank, I think Sua is probably ahead of Herbie. I think Sua is ahead of Herbie now. in my eyes.
Really?
I think he's gotten to that point. I think Herbie is solid. But I think Sua might be pretty good. And
He has more upside. I think Herbie's a better player right now.
but I think he started to reach that upside. And I think by next year, I think that'll be the case.
Okay.
But yeah, I have them both here. And again, I mean, we've talked a million times about Stout and how valuable he is to this organization. But guys like, you mentioned Jack Armstrong and Sua and Herbie and Driscoll, who's a 4. I think we have him in the tackles this time around. But Stoutland takes these guys, and even Kelsey, he never made a Pro Bowl before Stout was here. His value to this organization is insane. I mean, they have the best offensive line in football. Why is that? One man, Jeff Stoutland.
Yeah, and it kind of tells you how much they value versatility, because I had to make decisions on where to put these guys, whether they were interior or tackles, because there was a few that could go in either category. The last one's Isaac Sayamalu. Yeah,
Coyote can play tackle or guard too.
Yeah, that's why he's one of the few. Yeah. The last one is Isaac Sayamalu. We both have him coming back, but I'll pose this question to you: where does he play next year?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I thought long and hard about him, because I think there's a chance he doesn't fit into their plans next year. I don't think that's that out of the question. I mean, the injuries have really been an issue. I think he's really solid when he does play, but what's he played 9 games the last 2 years? He's only played 10 games once in his career, or 10 starts once in his career. Now, some of that was because he just wasn't a starter yet. But when did he come out? 16?
Yeah.
So he's going into his 7th year. I think there's a fair chance. And I almost had him not coming back, but I just thought there's probably a better than 50% chance he'll be here. But if Kelsey's back, and you have Dickerson at left guard, now you have and Lane's at right tackle. You have Driscoll, you have Sayamalu, you have Sua, you have Opeta, who are all viable right guards.
You have Sua and Opeta?
Did I say that? Yeah. I meant Herbie. I meant Herbie and Sua and Driscoll and Sayamalu. But I can see Sayamalu not being part of that. I think it's possible he's a backup. It's possible you trade him. It's possible he's not here. I personally think Driscoll is out of that bunch is probably your best bet at right guard. He's had trouble staying healthy, but right guard's going to be really interesting. If Kelsey comes back, it's going to be really fascinating to see how that all lines up.
You think Driscoll is a better bet at right guard than Isaac?
Possibly. Yeah. I think he might be a little ahead of him.
Huh. I don't think so. I think Isaac's going to be the right guard. And heck, between him and Driscoll, maybe you'll be able to piece together a 17-game season.
Yeah, maybe. They both averaged about 8.5 starts. And the other thing is, I mean, Isaac's never played right guard. Now it's I don't know how much I think he can handle it. He's been left guard. I don't think he's never started a game at right guard.
He played right tackle.
Yeah, he did. He did for one game.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm selling Isaac short because maybe it's just recency bias. We just haven't seen him play much lately.
I know Jeff Stoutland loves Isaac Sayamalu.
Yeah, he does.
He
does. Yeah, I just have a hunch that it's possible he won't fit into their plans. They have a lot of interior linemen who can play.
I know. I have them all making the team.
You do.
Let's go to specialists. Jake Elliott. Want to go quick here? He's back. He's good. Move on.
Yeah, he's back. He's good.
Yeah. Rick Lovato. This is the first time I thought about him all year. He's back. It's
interesting. I had who's the last Eagles long snapper other than Dorenbos, Mike Bartram, and Rick Lovato. He's also the last Eagles long snapper that actually played a position. Well, Bartram played tight end, but he's the last one to start a game.
I don't know.
It was Jeff Dellenbach in '99. And he might become a coach.
My favorite long snapper story, the one year, it was before Dorenbos's last year here, and they brought in a kid named John DePalma, as like competition. And there was one day after practice where I'm watching John DePalma on the practice field, long snapping balls into the goalpost. Boom, boom. Or it was during practice. He's all by himself on the side field, long snaps, two, 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 one after the other. And he picks up his head and he looks over at the crowd of fans. And there's Dornbach signing autographs, taking photos. And I think it was that moment he was like, I don't have a shot at this job.
I'm going to tell you my favorite long snapper story. Dornbos came here in the middle of a season, if I remember. I think it was, I can't remember. I guess Bartles that's maybe when he got hurt his neck, right? And I forget how it worked, how he got here, but got here in the middle of the season. I was doing a weekly Eagles appearance at a local bar here in Bucks County, and our guest canceled. And I'm talking to the PR guys trying to get a replacement guest. And they're like, well, we can send the new long snapper up. Like we had a limo that would pick him up. I was like, all right, like we don't have a choice. So they gave me his number. I called him. I was like, you good with this? He's like, yeah. I was like, you'll get a meal. You get a good meal. We'll give you some gift cards. He's like, hey, I do magic. Do you mind if I like do some magic tricks? I'm like, no, bring your magic stuff. That's cool. I'm like, oh yeah.
You'd be like, what the hell is this?
So he gets there and there's like maybe. Now, this guy now sells out Vegas, but there was like maybe 15 or 20 people at this bar called Manny Brown's in Newtown, in Middletown Township in Bucks County, no longer there. And we interview him for a little while and, talk about long snapping. And then he brings out his magic. And there's, some kids there and he's doing, and I'm like, oh my God, this guy, like, I thought he was just going to be like, like this little magic hobbyist guy. He was doing sorcery there in front of us and like sitting next to him, like, and watching this, like I'm sitting there trying to figure out how he's doing these things. And there's like, I mean, it was impossible. It was literally impossible what I saw him doing, sitting next to me. And, as we all know, he's made quite a second career out of magic. But yeah, he was his first appearance ever as a magician in Philadelphia was a Manny Brown's, like the day he got here in front of 20 people.
That's really funny. All right, the last one, Aaron Sipos, the punter. They got to get. Yeah, I think they need a new punter, and I was a little surprised that they let him just be the guy in camp. They didn't bring in any competition for him. It was a mistake.
Yeah, I was looking at average like 40. I think it was like 45 through 12 games. And then from that point on, he averaged 37 yards a punt. Nobody else in the league was under 39.5. So he was worse by 2.5 yards per punt down the stretch. Had a 29-yarder that killed him in the playoff game. So I've seen enough. Field position's too important. You just can't bring this guy back.
Yeah, I'm with you. We'll see what they do. It's, Cam Johnston, it was expensive. And at the time, the Eagles thought it was like too rich for the mode they were in. They could have used them.
Yeah, he had another good year, solid year, but got to go find a punter. It's better than trying to find a running back. So hopefully they get someone who can. I mean, it's not an easy place to punt. It's outdoor stadium in the Northeast. It's the hardest. That's why Cam Johnston was so incredible. I mean, he was always among the league leaders punting in these conditions that you get in Philadelphia in November, December, January. So they got to find the next Cam Johnston. Maybe another Australian dude is what they need.
Well, Sipos is Australian too, and that hasn't helped them.
No, that's true. Savroka, but they've had a lot of Australian punters.
Yeah. All right. The last position today is offensive tackle. Let's get through this one. LaRaven Clark, have him staying or going?
I don't remember. I think I have him staying. Yeah, I have him staying. I have it on my screen, but when I rebooted, I lost it, I think. But I think it's, he's a guy who has been, I think what I wrote was he's just a guy who's been around. He started some games. They liked him enough they added a year to his contract, which doesn't really mean anything because they didn't guarantee anything, but it does show that they probably want him around for another year. So I have him staying.
Yeah, I do too. And the reason I have him staying is because the next guy on the list is Andre Dillard. I have him going. I think they're going to trade Andre Dillard. And once they do, he would be the top backup tackle. Then Raven Clark becomes a swing guy. The tough thing with Dillard is he's a backup, but he's not really backing up both sides. And
Right.
that's a tough deal.
And he, like you said, they value versatility, and he doesn't play guard. He doesn't play right tackle. So I have him going too. I think they'll trade him. I don't know what his value is. I thought he played okay. I think he started 4 games at left tackle, 3 when Mulata was hurt, and then 1 when Mulata played right tackle. But I have him going. I think you get what you can for him and move on. And he can start somewhere, or I don't know how high a level, but I think they'll move on from him.
I think they could get a decent pick for him.
Like what?
3 or 4?
I don't think you can get a 4. I think
you can get a 4?
I think you can get a 5.
I think you get a 4.
Okay. I would take it. I would take the 5.
Yeah.
I think with each passing year that a guy's removed from being a 1, there's a point where you can't get a 5 for him the next year. But 3 years later, you can take a 5 or 4.
I guess, but there's some bad tackle play in this league, and he's better than some starting tackles.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. Yeah.
The next one is Jack Driscoll, who I put him as a tackle. I easily could have put him in the guard, but we had a lot of guards, so I moved him to tackle.
And you don't want to keep 9 guards.
That was part of my thinking. But I think he'll be back. The injuries, like you mentioned earlier with him, are a big concern.
Yeah, I like the way he plays. He's really tough. He's nasty. But, yeah, he keeps getting hurt. So it's something you got to keep an eye on. Some guys just are kind of that's just who they are. So that's going to be the next challenge for him. But when he's on the field, I think he's pretty good.
Yeah. Can I lump the next 2 together, Jordan Mailata and Lane Johnson?
Lump away.
They're together, and they're staying, and they're 2 really good tackles. We don't know how long Lane will last, over the next few seasons, but he'll definitely be back next year and probably the year after that. And Mailata just signed that 4-year, $64 million extension. I think after next year, that's going to look like a heck of a bargain.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And it's amazing to me that when you look at Trey Thomas was their left tackle from 98 to 09, or no, to 08. And then JP from 09 to, 2019 with a foray to right guard and, and a year he missed. But for the most part, they've had 3 really, really good left tackles for the last quarter century.
And it was supposed to be Andre Dillard picking that up. And if it's Jordan Mailata, great.
Yeah. So pretty amazing that you can have 3 guys. His contract runs through 25, so that would be 98 to 25 is 28 years. Those 3 guys, and he's only 24, so
that's the thing. He won't even be 30. He's going to have a chance to make a ton of money in this league.
Yeah, he is. So if you can get left tackle settled, you're in good shape, and they certainly are for the future.
Yeah. The last one is Brett Toth, who the Eagles seem to like. They keep bringing him back, and they've taught him other positions. He's been a tackle. They've taught him guard. I think he's taken some snaps. So they like him, but I have him going.
Yeah, he's also just had knee surgery. So even if they want to keep him, he's going to be – he just had it. He got hurt at the end of the season. So, he's not going to be able to play till October. So he's not going to be on the initial roster. If anything, he'd be on PUP. And maybe practice squad. They do seem to like him, and maybe he'll be back at some point, but I have him going.
Yeah. All right. That's the stay or goes. Next week, we'll finish up the series with defensive end, tight end, quarterback, and safety. Some interesting decisions in that group. But Rue, before we ended, Super Bowl, you have a prediction for the game?
I'm going with the upset. I just think on paper, the Bengals don't – I don't know how the Bengals O-line is going to stop the Rams pass rush. That Rams interior is unreal. I'm going Bengals. I just have a hunch. It's funny. I covered the Super Bowl in '89, the Bengals 49ers, and some TV station they interviewed like a bunch of people covering the game, and I was the only one that picked the Bengals. Obviously, they lost, but I got to stick with the Bengals. So just 23 years later, I'll pick the Bengals again. One of these decades, they're going to win one. I just think they're a fun team, and to me, they're more fun than the Rams.
I agree with that. I might be pulling for the Bengals a little bit just because I'd like to see that city win something. I like the underdog. I really like Joe Burrow. He's a fun young player, but I think the Rams are going to win. I just don't know that defensive line versus the Bengals offensive line is the biggest mismatch of this game.
Yeah,
and I don't know how they overcome that.
Yeah, I agree. It's probably wishful thinking on my part, but the Bengals are really good. I mean, their quarterback is one tough dude, and they've got weapons and they can run the ball. So I think they'll be in the game. But I mean, if I had to bet, I'd probably bet on the Rams. But if it's a podcast prediction, I'll go with the Bengals.
That's fair. And the very last thing, while we were recording this podcast, the Sixers traded Ben Simmons for James Harden.
What? Wow, that's out of the blue. It hadn't been rumored or anything.
Yeah, I know. There's some more layers to the trade, obviously, but initial takeaway from it?
I mean, you get something for nothing. I've never been a James Harden fan. I don't like the way he kind of picks and chooses when he's going to play defense. He's always miserable. He always wants to go to another team. There's always something. I mean, but obviously the Sixers are better with James Harden. I mean, just see Embiid and Harden play together is going to be. They weren't going to win a title with their roster the way it is now. That at least they have a chance. So. I guess I can't. I mean, I would have been fine without it. I'm happy that they didn't give up Maxey or Thibault. I love Maxey. Man, his game. This is 21 years old, and Thibault defensively plays like nobody I've ever seen. So I'm happy they'll be here. I just hope he play. I hope he gets back on defense. That's all.
Yeah, I just think you have to take shots when you have Embiid. Like, you don't know how long he's going to last in this league. Right. And he's been great. But I think everyone knows that. I think the organization realizes, like, you have this unicorn of a player and you don't know how long you're going to have him. So you have to just try to do what you can while you have him. And if this was a superstar in front of you that you could get, you go get him. So I'm excited. It should be fun.
You gave up, was it Seth Curry, Drummond, and was it Danny Green? Who was the other guy? Ben, help me out. Who's the other guy? Ben's off doing Sixer stuff right now. Yeah. But it was definitely
Drummond,
Curry,
I think, and then 2 first-round draft picks, one in 2022.
Oh, so they didn't give up Danny Green.
They did not give up Danny Green.
Okay.
All right.
As long as we get to keep Danny Green, I'm okay. I'm okay with the deal. Hey, big hand for Ben Berry, our producer.
Yeah, and the Sixers Talk podcast will be fun as they break all this stuff down.
Yeah, I can't.
That's it for us.
Yeah, make sure you listen to the Sixers Talk podcast later. It'll be up late afternoon, so check it out.
Sixers Talk podcast, and make sure to check out Take Off with John Clark. He's out there in LA doing John Clark things, talking to everyone in the world. That's all we have for Rube. I'm Dave. This has been Eagle Eye. Please do us a favor, rate and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're watching on YouTube, click the like button and subscribe there as well. We'll talk to you next week.